Endure and survive, and welcome everybody to another episode of the Lunch Table Podcast. In this episode, we're going to give you our review for The Last of Us, episode 4, now streaming on HBO Max. If you guys are new to the channel, please remember to like and share. It'll greatly help us out, and also check out our other playlists as well. We got plenty of Last of Us reviews and stuff like that. Dylan, man, this show is so good. It's such a faithful adaptation. Let's just get right to it. So what are your thoughts?
Hit after hit, man. That's what I gotta say about this show. It doesn't disappoint. Episode 4 was another great episode. It was a bit shorter than the previous 3, but I definitely love the acting in this episode. I think Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal just have such a great chemistry on screen. Like, it's very noticeable. I'm not much of a connoisseur in the game, but I know you'll probably touch on some of the little Easter eggs that they pick up on the show. But what were your thoughts on episode 4?
Oh, I think that I finally we get to see Joel and Ellie really interact with each other. They had a lot of time alone, and I think Joel's hard exterior is peeling away slowly. I think he has a problem. You see, I think he thinks that he has to be that guy all the time, even before the outbreak. And he kind of controlled Tommy a little bit. Like, he was the more dominant person there. And I think that side where he could kind of let go and those intimate moments, I think when they let that shine, it's really beautiful. And I can't wait to see more of that. And I think Ellie, Bella Ramsey, again, she acts phenomenally here. I know a lot of people are on the fence about her sometimes. I think she's given an authentic portrayal for Ellie. And that joke book, I was like, ugh, when I saw that, man. That was so cool. And the same jokes, algebra. Oh my God, I loved it. But give me more of your thoughts.
Yeah, no, that was awesome. I love, like, just her, like, fucking with Joe every moment she can, right? It's like she adds so much heart and so much humor to this because Joel's a very, like, depressed character, and it's like how, like, she tries to lighten the mood sometimes. So even in, like, this very depressed world, like, you can still, like, find a grain of, like, humanity or happiness in it just from these stupid jokes, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just love that first beginning scene with them just, like, traveling. First they changed the location. So in the game, I think it was like Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh, I'm sorry. And then in the show, they said they shot Kansas City. I love the location shots. I thought, like, the wide angle, they must have used, like, IMAX cameras or some shit, because I loved just seeing, like, the bridge shots and just, like, the town. Even, like, you could just tell it looks so natural on screen. It looks like this world, like, really decayed over time. I would say much better than how Walking Dead did it. But yeah, so they're kind of, like, camping out, and they're kind of just, like, bonding, right? And it's just so cool to see, like, how, like, I don't know, like, I was talking earlier how about, like, Bella Ramsey or Ellie's, like, her character, like, she's so naive to this world, but she kind of, like, picks up little things, and, like, Joel kind of, like, gives, like, his own little history on little things. And then there was a scene where I do remember from watching a clip of the game where, like, she actually shows the cassette tape, and they actually, like, share, like, a moment where, like, they're playing music, and then they see, like, a porno magazine. It was so funny. But yeah, what else did you think of the first half of the episode?
Well, I'm also glad because we get to see the car crash. So they encountered an ambush. This happened in the game, of course. And it reminded me a lot of, I know the game, actually, this reminded me of that in the game as well, where the beginning scene where they were in a truck in Sarah, and there was this people trying to ask for help, and they passed by, and Joel, he had the instinct to not trust that and just keep going. Somebody will come along, right? And I think it's so interesting how life goes full circle, and Joel and Tess came along to help Ellie, but it's also a showcase of the instinct that Joel has, that I think he's very cunning, that for some reason, even if Tommy encountered and been through Desert Storm, Joel still, I think, has more of a killer instinct than Tommy does. And he's been on both sides of war, and he hasn't even gone to an actual war. So I think that's really interesting. And I think the whole encounter with them shooting at Joel and Ellie was really cool. Obviously in the game, it was a lot more big. Here was I think, claustrophobic. I had a sense of claustrophobic, and it was really loud and it was really intense. And I just like how they shot that a lot. And I think we also finally got to see Ellie defend Joel for the first time and shoot that person. I think that person's name, the showrunner said his name was Jerry or Bob or something like that. I don't know why. That's just a fun tidbit. But I love how Ellie, and that dynamic where it was the aftermath where that guy was begging for his life, it was very ugly, right? And violence is very ugly. And I love how authentic they did that. And I love how Ellie, she's a young girl. She has a little bit of something inside of her, kind of like Joel. She's very strong and she kind of has that instinct as well. But I felt like in that dynamic, it was interesting where she said, I have to be weak right now and I have to leave to let Joel take care of business and kill that man. And I love how realistic it was that Joel used a knife instead of a bullet because, everything is scarce. Let me get your thoughts on that whole scene because I felt like that whole scene was really impactful.
Yeah, well, I mean, we said in the last episode that she was probably going to use the gun, right, to save Joel eventually, right? And it turned out in this episode that she did, and I loved how they did it. As soon as, that guy, surprised Joel, I was like, oh, this is probably where they're going to show Ellie stepping up and using the gun and becoming, this is a stepping point for her character, right? And I agree, it was interesting because at first, she kind of was not trusting Joel a bit because she was like, are you going to help this guy? And he's like, no. And then it was kind of she thought he was an asshole. And then when she realizes that this is a trap and this is they're in danger, then she's like, okay, well, now I have to trust Joel and now I have to, step up and show that I'm a survivalist, right? So I like that scene because Bella Ramsey conveyed so many emotions. And in that one scene, it was fear and then empathy and then courage. So I think she did a really great job in that performance. And then, yeah, when she actually... even though she didn't kill, I think his name was Brian, that one guy, she lets Joel, do the final act, right? Because now she fully trusts him. So I really loved how they did that scene.
Right, Brian. Yeah, that was really cool. And then, of course, they're on the run now. It kind of sucks that Joel ditched his backpack too. I was like, what the hell? I forgot if later in the trailers or something did he keep his backpack? I don't know. I hope that somehow he gets to retrieve that backpack.
Well, remember, he's a survivalist, so it's if you're on the run, you have to carry light, right?
It's realistic, yeah, it's authentic. And anyway, her backpack I think is more iconic too, so she kept hers. But then we are introduced to this new group of survivors led by Kathleen, played by Melanie Linsky. And we also get to see Perry, played by Jeffrey Pierce. Oh my God, the voice of Tommy. He kind of sounds like him. He kind of looks like my dad too, which is funny. So let me get your thoughts on these new characters. It's very different from the game too.
Yeah, so this faction is very ruthless. At first, I thought they were Fedra or the Fireflies or something, but apparently they're a new faction. Yeah, that first scene with Kathleen, I think, pretty much spoke about her character, right? She is obviously on a quest for vengeance because her brother died at the hands of Henry, who we'll probably elaborate on later. And she's interrogating the doctor that actually helped deliver her, right? And I thought that was such a powerful scene. It really shows how cold and ruthless some of these characters in this world have become. She actually reminded me so much of I don't know if anyone remembers Dawn from The Walking Dead, that policewoman. She kind of reminded me of that character a bit.
Annoying.
Right, annoying, but she thinks she has control over this faction. And yeah, that was cool. And then she's kind of on this quest to find Henry. So why don't you elaborate on that a bit?
Yeah, so definitely different from the game. In the game, Henry and Sam, they're brothers, and they kind of have a not similar relationship to Joel and Ellie, but they're brothers, right? Henry's taking care of his brother, and they're in this city where they're on the run from the hunters. So here it seems that Kathleen she was the head of this revolution, and they killed all of the members of Fedra, and now they've taken over. And I think it's really realistic too, because a lot of revolutions, the people that take over usually are bad too. So it's kind of the same shit, different smell. And yeah, she is cold. And I don't know if they're gonna approach it the way how they did in the game, where Henry and Sam, direct Joel and Ellie to safety later on. I think they're going to play it out a little bit differently to make sense for the TV. And I also want to know what's going on underneath, because they went to like a sub level or something and we get to see something moving. Obviously a bloater, my goodness, I can't wait to see the bloater. But I think also she's interesting. I don't know how much we'll see of her, but I think that she's a very dynamic character, to say the least, because she kind of knows that she needs to have this greater purpose, and she kind of has to kill a part of herself, the softer side. You killed the man that delivered you, and it kind of reminded me of Kylo Ren, where he needs to like kill off the past in a way. But I don't know how much they're actually going to do with that. Sometimes the Last of Us game felt some sort of like this anthology. You met all these characters, but then they went away. So I kind of like how they're setting up the show to kind of be like that, and we could see spinoffs later on.
Yeah, it kind of feels like she's serving as like their first antagonist in a way. I mean, obviously the infected are the main problem, but they're kind of like a force of nature, right?
Right.
In Apocalypse games, the people are the real villains, right? So I feel like she's like the first like real villain that they'll encounter in the show. Yeah, and
I think Neil Druckmann said once that he loves to deep dive into the antagonist and kind of try to humanize them. And I think those make that type of technique, you always come out with the best villains. And so I appreciate that, because Joel, in a sense, is a villain as well, right? Ellie asked him, have you killed innocent people? And he refused to answer. And I think that will play really well with The Last of Us Season 2 if they adapt part 2. I don't know what's really going on with that, but anyway, so yeah, Joel and Ellie make their way into this high rise, and they're going up about 35 floors, and they finally get to relax, they get to chill, sleep, right? And I love this moment, because this moment reminded me of the concept art. It's a very famous concept art from The Last of Us, where it shows Joel and Ellie in a campfire and they're just laughing with each other, and Ellie says, did you know diarrhea is hereditary?
It runs in your genes.
Yeah, it runs in your genes. And Joel laughs. They both laugh, right? And it's the first time we get to see Joel let down his guard and actually be a human instead of this protector. And I think it's important to get that way, because he's going to have a daughter and father bond with her eventually. But unfortunately, they went to bed and were awakened by Henry and Sam, which was awesome. So let me get your thoughts on that whole thing.
Well, I thought that was kind of a beautiful moment. And yeah, it definitely shows like Joel's like humanity, like, because they're going to be on this road for like a long time, so eventually he's gonna have to like let his guard down at some point. But I love the little banter between them. It's so like, I don't know, very like familial, and like just like the little like shits and giggles that like they throw at each other, like, oh, where would you be without me? And he's like, Wyoming. I thought that was like funny. But yeah, and then so they're awakened by, I assume that's Henry.
Yeah, Henry and Sam.
Yeah, so they're held at gunpoint. Yeah, that was actually a shock to me. So now I'm wondering, like, will they team up against Kathleen? What do you expect we'll see for next episode?
Yeah, so in the game, Henry knew a place to escape from the city, at least, and they had to go past this bridge. And it led to the sewers, and then after that, it led to the suburbs, and then something happens. So I think they're gonna kind of go down the same path. I think it's kind of like this thing where basically Joel and Ellie, they were at the same spot where Henry and Sam were trying to get away from everybody else, right? That's their den. And probably they're going to have a conversation and they're going to try to escape, and something's going to happen with the bloater, right? You had a great theory. Why don't you tell us that theory? Because I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I was thinking like maybe so probably Kathleen will either catch up with them or Henry, and probably they'll be like like an execution kind of thing where they're about to kill him, and then maybe that's when the bloater actually like exposes itself, and then that's how they escape, right?
Yeah.
I don't know too much about how it was in the game, so that's just my prediction, but what do you think about it?
I think that's gonna happen, but I think that crater that's left from when the bloater escapes, and then there's also some infected down there, I think that's the sewers, and I think that's when Joel and the whole group will escape through there, and they'll find their way to. I don't know if they're gonna do the whole antenna thing. People who played the game know about the antenna. I don't think they're gonna do that. Maybe it's just gonna go straight to the suburbs and then boom. But anyway, that's the same thing anyway. The antenna is at the suburbs, so I don't know if they're gonna even do the whole suburbs thing at all. I don't know, but that seems the most likely case. So yeah, this was a really wonderful episode. It was a really short episode too. I heard next episode is short, and guys, remember next episode is going to be Friday because this week is the Super Bowl, this Sunday. So do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, overall great episode. Like I said, beat by beat, they've been hitting, and I just love the acting in this episode. I think it really showed their characters so well, and I love just even like those little intimate moments, like Joel like training Ellie like how to use a gun. Also, I think that gun was different from the game because I think she's using like a Beretta 70 or something, and then the game was different. But it's really cool to see like how like in the beginning she was like kind of like playing with it like a toy, but now she's taking it seriously, right? Because now she's kind of adopting this survivalist persona, right? Now it's she's not a kid anymore, right? She's beyond that, right? And her, like I said before, like her innocence is gone now. Now she kind of has to be like Joel, where she has to kind of be this cold, emotionless character where she has to put her and Joel first before anybody else. But overall, great episode, man. Cinematography was great. The music, you know, in the backgrounds, like when they would play like the cassette, I thought that was really well done. Everything was shot so smoothly. But yeah, for me, this episode gets 9 out of 10.
Yeah, for me, this episode gets a 10 out of 10. I love this episode. I also love that the same thing which you mentioned about the gun. I think that shows that, yeah, she's going to go in survivalist mode, but also she's going to... She likes to be a little bit bad. She kind of likes that. She's similar to Joel. There's something about that. There's that fire inside of her, and it smells good, right? She smelled her gun, and she can't wait to encounter more. But unfortunately, that's a heartfelt and bloody path that she will encounter later on. But everybody, yeah, that is our review on episode 4 of The Last of Us. Again, guys, please remember to like and share. It'll greatly help us out. I know that we've been exclusively doing The Last of Us reviews, but we do have a couple of other videos in mind that we want to do pretty soon. And also this month is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. We're going to do a review for that, and also Creed 3 around next month or so. But yeah, Dylan, please take us away.
Yeah, thank you guys for supporting us every episode. Everything helps the channel. Like, share, subscribe, anything helps. Of course, we're on YouTube, but you can also check us on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify as well. Of course, you can also check us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. We post clips of our episodes every day. Yeah, we have a lot of content planned. Obviously, big things are coming up this month. We're planning to get a couple guests on the podcast as well. And we have a cool revisited episode that we're working on. I'm so hyped to work on it. But yeah, thank you guys again. And until then, endure and survive.
Endure and survive. See you guys.